Hi, I'm Bryan Pinchuk. I'm the founder and CEO of InnoCare Urologics, and we are transforming urinary catheter care by making novel Foley catheters to help improve patient outcomes and reduce clinical complications. So our first product is a Foley catheter, and for those of you lucky enough to not know what a Foley catheter is, it's a standard of care drainage device for urine drainage. It's been standard of care for over 80 years, and it's used nearly across every care setting because everybody pees, but not everybody can. So because of that, there's over 100 million Foley catheters used around the world each year, about 30 million of those here in the US. And since their introduction, there's been minimal innovation on the Foley catheter design for, like I said, almost over 80 years. So it's a tube about the size of a pencil that has a balloon at the end that's the size of a ping pong ball. And what happens sometimes is one of the common complications are patients pull the catheters out with the balloon inflated, and that can lead to a number of injuries. It happens about 700,000 times per year, according to some published data. And those incidents lead to about $4.5 billion of unplanned healthcare spending. And some of the most common patient risk factors that would lead to a patient pulling their Foley catheter out are Alzheimer's, delirium, dementia, patients wakening from anesthesia, are irritated or agitated, and they just start pulling out their catheters. And then, of course, just during transport, it can happen as well. The tubing can get caught and the catheters can get pulled out or dislodged. I actually know someone who was in a motorcycle accident. He was in the hospital, was catheterized, and was just sitting in the hospital chair and was moving to his bed and stepped on the catheter tubing and pulled the catheter out that way. Some of the injuries, it ranges from excessive bleeding to urethral tears to infection. And sadly, I know someone whose father passed away due to an infection that he got when his catheter was pulled out. So it can happen to cognitively impaired patients, cognitively intact patients, and a variety of different injuries. This patient on the far right had a catheter that was pulled out, and a few weeks later went back to the hospital because he had some pain in his abdomen, and they found that a fragment of the balloon had actually ripped off and calcified within his bladder that was causing the pain. So injuries are various and can happen to anyone at any point. And so that's what InnoCare is here to address. We've invented the Egress safety catheter. It's a safety Foley catheter whose balloon automatically deflates if it's pulled out with the balloon inflated. So it'll remain inflated during standard clinical use. We just have a proprietary valve in the balloon area that will activate if it's pulled or stretched past a predefined threshold. So it allows the balloon to drain before it comes out. So again, during standard clinical use, it will perform just like a normal standard Foley catheter. And it's only when it's pulled out with the balloon inflated that the valve will activate, allowing the balloon to deflate before it comes out. If it's just used as a standard Foley, it integrates seamlessly into the clinical workflow. It looks like a Foley, is inserted and placed like a normal Foley, and then is removed like a standard Foley catheter. So there's no specialized training required to use our device. If someone is already trained and has the knowledge of how to use a standard Foley catheter, then they will be able to use the Egress catheter as well. We are FDA-cleared under a new safety code. It's Foley catheters and accessories with additional safety features is a new product classification code that the FDA created. And I can't speak for the FDA saying they created it just for us, but that code did not exist before our clearance. And currently we're the only device cleared under that code. We have two devices cleared, a straight tip and a coude tip, 16 French, 10 cc device, all silicone. Both devices are cleared under that clearance. So we are currently conducting market evaluation in 4 facilities here in the United States, 2 skilled nursing facilities and 2 urology clinics in 4 different locations in the United States. And we've got over 22 patents in the US and globally, with additional patents pending on some new technology. And the manufacturing process, it looks like a Foley catheter, and we're not inventing any new manufacturing processes to create our device. So it's very equivalent and seamless integration of manufacturing and on the clinical side as well to use our Foley catheter. Like I said, there's over 30 million Foleys used here in the United States alone. And here are just some of the different care settings where Foley catheters are used. They are used in almost every care setting across the healthcare spectrum. So our device is applicable in any of those because pullouts can happen anywhere. But what we're focusing on first here at InnoCare is really going to look at going into the ICU department first. There's a known catheter population there, and the patient demographics are, the patients within the ICU would fit the criteria of patients that might have their Foley catheters pulled out. And we know, looking at published data, about 1 in 20 Foley catheters in the ICU are pulled out each year, with those costs ranging anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per event. And if there is a catheter-associated urethral injury, the risk of infection goes up by over 4 times, and the length of stay can increase by over 2 days. So the staff that's working in the ICU that's already taking care of so many patients, the last thing they want is a patient pulling out their Foley catheter. So they're there for whatever reason, and now they have a Foley catheter injury to manage as well. So as part of our initial rollout, we're looking at the ICU department because the patient population within the ICU is very well suited for our device, because we can hope to add a lot of patient safety to those patients as well. And over the next 6 months, so like I said, we're in the middle of a market evaluation that we just started now, and we're going to be focused really on getting some of that early initial human use feedback on the device performance to make sure that what we've designed is appropriate for the patients. And in that phase, we're going to be building our clinical and economic value proposition as well, so that the different facilities can see how not only are we safer for patients, but we can help reduce costs associated with some of those injuries as well. And then over the next 12 to 24 months, focusing on commercial launch and increasing our product portfolio. So we've already identified a couple of other new sizes and products that we're going to be releasing over the next 24 months, and looking at expanding outside the ICU to additional skilled nursing facilities, additional nursing homes, and other departments in the acute care setting as well. And we have the team to do it. We've got an experienced team that is very, very experienced in design and development and on the regulatory side, and we have sales experience as well. And then on top of that, we have physician advisors that have direct experience caring for patients that have had their Foley catheters pulled out. So we're getting real-time information from physicians in the field that care for these patients, so they know how the device should perform, and they know what we should be looking for as we go into this market evaluation phase. And then just really thinking back, so these are just a couple of the emails that we've received through our website that are from patients, families, or staff at healthcare systems that say that they have a patient or family member that has a history of pulling out their catheters. You can see a common theme there is dementia, and they need a safer option. And that's why we're here. So like I said, I know 2 people that have had their catheters pulled out. There are so many more stories like that, and hopefully InnoCare can be the new standard of care for Foley catheters to be a safer option for those patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan, so much for that. And why don't you tell us a little bit about, you won the award at the AUA, right? You presented at the AUA Innovations meeting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so at the Innovation Nexus at this year's AUA meeting, there were about, I think, 40 companies applied to present at the Innovation Nexus, and then they narrowed that down to 14 to present at the conference. And then of the 14, they awarded innovation awards to the top 3 companies, and we were one of the top 3 to be honored with an award for innovation in urology. So that was really nice. So I had pitched this at a different conference previously and also won an award there, and then to get this additional award, it's really validating because every catheters are everywhere. So these injuries, it's a known problem that, like I said, the design hasn't changed in 80 years. And so it's just been a problem that has been dealt with, and we're hoping that we can solve it with our device. And we're really looking forward to what's happening over the next 12 months.
Yeah, can you tell me what is the material? What is the material of the cap with this device? Is
All
it
silicone.
silicone or what is it?
Yeah, all silicone. Our device
Oh.
right now, yeah, is all silicone.
Yeah, I've managed many patients with all silicone catheters, and I really, I'm glad to see that because I do think that patients do react to some of the other materials. So silicone tends to be really in a type of material that is very safe for patients. So I'm glad to hear that. Also, you're right in what you're saying is the trauma of these inadvertent removals is kind of what we call them, where the patient pulls out or if some kind of event causes it. You brought up your friend. The transferring is a real issue. Turning the patient, moving them from the bed to a stretcher back, and forgetting about the Foley, and then it gets pulled out. So I think this innovation is really exciting, and I really want to commend you and your team for identifying this. I'm glad that you're doing some real world, though, testing on it, correct?
Yeah. Yep. So our first in human was actually, I think, the week before the AUA conference. So we were really excited to be able to share that data as well. And then also one other thing, I was speaking to a trauma surgeon. They were operating on a patient that required a Foley catheter, and a nurse just reached across the patient to get something, and her hand got caught on the Foley catheter. So while they were doing the procedure on this patient, they then had to deal with the pulled out Foley as well. So it can happen at any point. And we're, like I said, and like you said, it's a problem, and we're very happy and excited that we've now got a solution to handle it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this. I know our audience on Grand Rounds in Urology will be very interested in this. Members are mostly urologists, nurse practitioners, PAs, and that. And like you say, they deal a lot with these Foley catheters. So I really commend you and congratulations on those awards.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to share what we're working on.